So this started out with a walk, and thank God it was a walk with my brother because he was actually able to help me carry this and a random shopping cart apparently. So we actually found the stool in a literal junkyard, and I ended up bringing it back because I thought maybe I could do something with it. Turns out I definitely could. But the stool had a lot wrong with it. It was broken at the top of it. It had a lot of weird little plastic things coming off it. I think that was probably like the sealant finisher coat that was just not doing its job anymore. I don't really know. I just know that it was flaking off, and it ended up being something I had to take off with scissors. But beyond that, it was just in a really, really rugged condition. I took it off with scissors because I didn't have any coarser grit of a sandpaper. I just had these scissors would work absolutely perfectly, and then a very fine sandpaper that I ended up using even later on. And here we introduce the sandpaper, which I could not stop laughing at because of how suggestive the way I was using it was. It worked out perfectly, but it was just, I couldn't keep it in. I couldn't decide then, and I still can't decide now, if the top was just really, really dirty or if it just really needed sanding, because this came off super easily and left a lot of dust in the air. Okay, first of all, look at me. It's so dirty. But then look at what came off. Oh my god. The girl he told you not to worry about? You. Who's more of a mess. My original thought process to clean was to put this over a bag and then vacuum it up, but it was just way too much for my vacuum to handle, so I ended up just putting it all in the garbage and then taking the bag back and continuing on from there. And then I came in with this stain. This one I don't really care for, honestly. It's the only stain that I've actually ever used, but it was just one I got off Amazon and it worked, but I probably wouldn't be purchasing it again because it's very streaky. I don't know if all stains are this streaky, but this one definitely was. I definitely will say it could have been a little bit of user error because this was my first time ever staining something, and obviously, practice makes perfect and perfection comes with practice. So, I mean, maybe in using this I'm going to end up getting better at it and I won't find it so streaky once I learn some techniques. And although I have been wearing them this entire time, I will just also give a little precaution. Definitely wear gloves during this because the stain gets extremely sticky. Again, I don't know if it's all stains or not, but this one specifically got real sticky. And yes, I was aware that I left some of the texture on it, so putting the stain on, the stain obviously didn't stick to all of the texture the exact same way, so it does have a slight discoloration throughout it, but I actually kind of wanted that look anyways, and then the fact that I didn't want to put too much work into taking all of it off, I just kind of like the look of it. It looks a little bit rough, it looks a little bit ragged, but in like a good put together way, like a vintage feel kind of. I'm just looking at it right now and I'm still absolutely in love with it. Is there stuff that I would change if I had the chance to go back? Absolutely, but as it is right now, being the first thing I've ever just taken from trash to treasure, I will definitely say I'm definitely proud of this little project I did. As I said, you know, you put a lot of love into projects like this, and no glove, no love, right? I did want to add some height and texture and bounce to this, so I came in with this foam. I washed this foam probably like 4 or 5 times, put it through the washer and the dryer, and it's still that dirty, so at this point, that's just the color of it. But I wanted to map it out, give it a little bit of seam allowance, especially because this foam wasn't like super dense. It was more along the lines of like just really bouncy, which, I mean, great for the project that I wanted, but I did just mark it out, and then I spent a good 20 minutes just cutting and cutting and cutting, because although this foam was not dense, there was a lot of it. Luckily, because of how aged this was, it was super easy to pull apart once I actually had like a grip on things, so I definitely took advantage of that one. The way I see this, I could have gone about it 2 different ways. I could have put the foam directly onto the wooden that the stool already had and basically staple it from there, or I could put it onto a piece of cardboard. That's what I chose to do, so that if push comes to shove and I want to change anything about this, it's a lot easier just to take it off than to take the entire seating properties away. So I just put it over some recycled cardboard. This is literally just trash treasure, like all of this is just recycled goods, except for, of course, like the stain and stuff. But I just marked out the circumference on this old piece of cardboard or cardstock that I had. Made sure to square them up together, or like, I guess, circle them up together, and then put that into my fabric. Now, at this point, this dress is an actual dress. Like, this material is just a dress in itself. It's when I start actually cutting it away and stapling it that it actually turns into what I more needed to, I guess. Trust the process is essentially what I'm saying. So this actually had pockets to it, which I was super, super sad to see go, because, again, the reason why I did this entire project is because I loved the fabric. Like, I loved the fact that it's a dress. It was one of my favorite dresses. It's just, I grew out of this, essentially, but I still love the fabric, and the fact that it has pockets is not something that a lot of girls can say about their clothes, unfortunately, in today's society. But once I cut off the super extra fabric that I'm going to be keeping, hopefully, for more projects, because as I said 100 times over, I love this fabric. I took a staple gun and I basically just pulled the fabric in as far as I wanted it, made it kind of taut, and then stapled. Did that all around. It looks a little bit weird on the side, obviously, but as soon as I flip it, it's going to look a little bit better. It still doesn't look perfect, but like I said, this is my first project, and it was a dress, so obviously it's not going to look exactly like it was just a piece of material. It's going to look a little bit like it doesn't entirely belong, but I still absolutely love it, and I'm really glad I got to do something with it instead of just throwing it out or donating it and just never getting to see it again. Funny little story about the staple gun is I bought it from a hardware store, and then it ended up not even working, and the staple I bought for it didn't work with the gun either, so I ended up returning the gun, buying a whole new one, and finally it worked out. But man, that was a process in itself. It took like 2 to 3 days to figure everything out. Oh my god. This project was a project. Flipping it around, like I said, it's not perfect, but I definitely love it a lot more than the dress that I had in my closet that I was no longer wearing. So this is where I glue everything. I'm using E6000. There's probably a better alternative to placing these 2 pieces together, but this is what I had on hand. I don't even know what would be a better alternative. If you do know, then definitely leave it in the comment section below. It was pretty much good to go after about 10 to 15 minutes of drying, but I did want to add a little bit of weight onto it, both timing-wise, like wait time, and object-wise, like weight. So I placed a laundry basket that was really, really full on top of it for 24 hours, and y'all ready for this? In the beginning, this was a serious mess. Whatever the finisher was on it was coming off. It was dirt everywhere. It was just not a very good sight, and it was in the trash, so obviously someone thought so too. And I took it from that to this. Now it has a nice little seating area, a nice little stain to match. It's a little bit splotchy, but you know, whatever. I like it for the first project I've ever really worked on like this, and everything stays in one place. You can sit on it, it's completely usable, and I love it. It's kind of vintage slash like retro-y, which is probably my favorite part about it. But that is it for today's video, and I do hope you guys enjoy.